Good morning, everybody. It's your girl, Miracle Sims, and you're listening to God, Sex, and Love. The morning inspiration. Yes, your daily dose of morning inspiration called The Juice. It is April 13th, 2020. And man, y'all, I know I'm kind of recording a little bit late compared to what I usually do, but there was quite a few notes I was taking, and Bible verses and things like that I was finding for you all today. So I hope that it blesses you, and will be a little bit worth posting a little bit later than usual. But anywho, friends, today I want to talk about struggle and authority. Yes, the authority. So as you guys know, this is God, Sex, and Love. So ever since I started the podcast, I've had quite a few people tell me I need to put disclaimers out when it comes to, I guess, some of the subject matter and this, that, and the other. And I understand that, and maybe at some point I will. So maybe this is a somewhat disclaimer that I'm about to get real right now. But with the title God, Sex, and Love, the whole point is to be able to talk about all those things in a free and open space. And so here I am. I'm going to share some truth with you about me and some personal information, but I hope that it blesses you. And so hopefully knowing in advance will help somehow. So with that being said, I want to talk about one of my struggles. So friends, to just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off or something. Basically, something that I've struggled with, I would say, throughout my life has been this thing called masturbation. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Masturbation, self-pleasing. My bad, I didn't even look up the definition for it, but I figured that everybody would know what it is. I hope so. If not, please go and look it up. But the definition off the top of my head to explain what it is self-pleasing. I feel like this is something that came into my life, unfortunately, at an early age. Basically, long story short, which most likely at some point I will share the story. I did share it on YouTube some years ago, so if you guys want to look that up and hear a little bit that I said about it back then, feel free. But I'm sure with this podcast and everything that's going on, and it being God, Sex, and Love, I'm sure I'm going to tell the full story. I don't intend to do that right now because I want to just focus on the struggles and authority. But anywho, that's something that I've struggled with, and like I said, it's started from an early age for me. Unfortunately, I believe that it came from one, being exposed to sexual things way before I should have been. Like I said, early age, probably, I'm talking maybe it was like three or four, possibly maybe 5, but I can't remember like when the first exposure was, but it had to be around that age. So that's one thing. And then 2, also, what I grew up to learn is being called molested. Again, apologize for not looking up these definitions for you all, just in case you don't know what I'm talking about. But I think you can look up molest. But to give you the definition again off the top of my head, is basically, goodness gracious, I looked at it. I don't know why I didn't write it down. Y'all look it up for yourself, because I don't want to misquote or say anything wrong. But look up molest if you don't know what it means, and please look up masturbation if you don't know what it means too. But anyway, so basically, I feel like because of those 2 things happening to me at an early age, masturbation was one of the things that I started to do, alongside some other things that I've had to deal with as well throughout my life when it comes to that situation. But one thing is, I kind of struggle because it's like I go back and forth in my mind about whether it's a sin or not. And I at one point in my life, I didn't want to research about it because I didn't want to stop, to be completely honest. And then another point in my life when I did kind of research about it, it wasn't a clear thing where it was like, yes, it definitely is, or no, it's definitely not, or, because I guess you're not going to find masturbation, the word, in the Bible. So that's probably one reason why as well. But whether it's a sin or not, I think basically for me, it just was something that I didn't necessarily want to continue to do. So that's what it boils down to. So with that being said, yeah, I mean, I would constantly have a mental battle about it, and I would end up in this place of do or don't. And I mean, how many of us have been there, y'all? You got that thing that's tempting you, and you're like, should I do this? Should I not do it? Or I mean, I think we all have probably been there, so I won't elaborate on that. I would find that I would do it more than not. But then there's been times where I exercised my authority and didn't do that, and then there's been times, of course, that I did. And so I kind of wanted to share with you all today because to kind of like just talk about some of those things that I learned throughout the process of my do's and don'ts. So one thing that I learned, friends, thus far, is that one, I have a choice. I think we all know that we have free will. We are all so quick to be like, I'm going to do what I want to do, or I'm like this, or I do this, or whatever. Like everybody, I got choices out here, So we all know we got free will and choices, right? But I think the thing is, nobody really wants to acknowledge or walk in their free will and choices. Like, I feel like, and the reasons why I feel like it just boils down to people don't want to take responsibility for their choices and their actions. So for whatever reason you want to say, oh yeah, I got all these choices, but at the end of the day, you don't want to like own up to your choice, or like, I don't know, that's a whole thing by itself, but let me get into some word right here. So in Joshua 24:15, I'm just going to kind of paraphrase it a little bit. It was talking about, it said, but if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. And Joshua goes on to say, that as for him and his house, he gonna serve the Lord. That's the thing. We got that choice, y'all. Again, like I kind of talked about it last week, that, God has given us this freedom, and he's not going to force us to do anything. We have the free will to choose. And so, yes, if we know that we have that free will and choices, people, you don't have to do that thing. Like I said, in my moments, I'm like, okay, yeah, I have done it, and then yeah, I have not done it. And those times where I did, that might have taken care of what it needed to take care of for that moment. But afterwards, or eventually, I would start to feel like, oh, why am I doing this? Like, oh, kind of beating myself up about it. And at the end of the day, you got choices out here. That's all. So the thing number 2, let's get to number 2, because we already at 8 minutes. Lord Jesus. So thing number 2, feeding my flesh versus feeding my spirit. Man, let's just get into the word right here. It says Galatians 5:16 through 17. So I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. For the flesh desires what is contrary to the Spirit, and the Spirit what is contrary to the flesh. They are in conflict with each other, so that you are not to do whatever you want. I mean, that pretty much sums the whole thing up. I mean, when you feed your flesh, you're going to be doing more things of the flesh. I'll give you all a personal example. So here's my personal example. I want to say maybe a few months ago, probably even last month, I was reading a lot of romance novels. So I'm somebody that I like to read. I was like that child that was reading by the street light from my window, because we had to, of course, turn the lights off at night, but I still wanted to read. So I had a street light next to my window, and I would like be trying to read my books or whatever like that. So reading is something I love to do. Well, in my adult life or whatever, I start to read romance novels, X, Y, and Z. So as I read more romance novels, guess what happens? I'm more aroused. And then from that, guess what happens? I'm masturbating, you know what I mean? So, but what I've noticed since I've been doing this podcast, I haven't been reading the romance novels so much. And guess what? I'm not really doing that as much either. Like the temptation or the arousal or that temptation to do that thing hasn't really been there as much. Now, I mean, again, I'm married, you know what I'm saying? My husband is a temptation. Shout out to hubby. And sometimes he's not around. So what I'm saying is, I'm going to be tempted, but I would say I haven't been tempted by that because I haven't been feeding my flesh with these romance novels constantly, for example, So I'm just saying, feeding our flesh, people, that, of course you're going to do more fleshly things if you're feeding your flesh. So less of that and more of things of the spirit, right? Just saying. So, also, with this being said, we got to kind of like watch what we take in. That's the whole point of me sharing that. Watch what we take in, what we listen to, what we watch, what we taking into our minds, what we read, all those things matter, So, anywho, gonna keep it going. Number 3, speaking of temptations. Again, I feel like the whole temptation thing it's a constant battle, friends. Like, just because you come to Christ don't mean you're not going to be tempted anymore like that. I mean, so we might as well just get that out of our heads. I mean, to be honest, completely honest, at least from what I've observed in my life, the more you get closer to Christ, the more temptation you're going to have. So that's why you got to build that spirit up. But anyway, let's go to the word. Luke 8, 11 and 12 says, "Now the parable is this. The seed is the word of God. And those beside the road are those who have heard. Then the devil comes and takes away the word from their hearts so that they would not believe and be saved." So, again, this just is a little bit of an example of what is happening to those that receive the word. You may hear the word, you may believe the word, but enemy don't want that. You know what I'm saying? So you gonna start to get those temptations. You gonna start to see everything you want. See everything that you tempted by. Or, you might get some pop-ups out of nowhere. Whether that be pop-up of people or pop-up on the computer, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is that's why we kind of need to do what Matthew 26 and 41 says. And I'm paraphrasing. I ain't going to read the whole thing. But basically it says, watch as well as pray. Like, this is the thing. Like I said, building the spirit. Because, we need to just be praying all the time and about everything. And build our spirit man so that when those temptations come, we'll be strong enough to resist them. When, again, let's keep going with that number 4 is just to point out that there's nothing that we can't bear. 1 Corinthians 10 and 13, paraphrasing right here, says, "He will also provide a way out so that you can endure." That's what we're saying, people. Just, again, building up that spirit and understanding what the Word of God says. These temptations you can endure, and because He has provided a way out. So if you're tempted by something, understand it is something that most likely you're going to be tempted by something that you desire, first of all. Yeah, I don't think there's many temptations by things you don't like or desire. But that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, but knowing that you can endure. So sometimes that way out is literally turning off the TV, leaving the room, doing anything aside from submitting to that sin. Like, you can do it. It's just, do you want to? I think that's kind of basically what it boils down to from that. Let's keep going. And number 5, another thing I learned throughout my journey is conviction is a good thing. Proverbs 3 and 12, partial. I'm just going to just part paraphrase right here. Says, "The Lord disciplines those He loves." Now, with that being said, let's not get it twisted, okay? If you feel like, oh, I don't feel convicted by the things I'm doing, it don't, that don't matter to me. Like, oh, what, so God don't love me? No, I don't think it's that, friend. I think that if we can't hear from God, then most likely it's because, I'm sorry to tell you, but it's probably because you exalting your will over his will, and, you're doing it so much that, either you can't or just don't want to hear him. Sorry. But I'm talking to myself too, y'all. I ain't just talking to y'all, just saying this to y'all. I'm talking to myself too. Like, there's times where, yeah, like I said, I'm in that do or don't moment, and I am just justifying it to myself. Like, well, husband's not here, so I guess, this is what I need to do. That, being completely honest, y'all, like, that's what I'm saying. So, hey, that, like, sometimes you just don't want to hear God, so you blocking him out. That don't mean he's not talking to you, and that don't mean he's not loving you. And if you feel any conviction in your heart, I feel like that's a good sign that, well, one, that you still got God, or that you're open to God and what he's doing, and then two, that that you're aware of what the word is saying, and that you got that strength to make it through. So, friends, with all that being said, I just wanted to share my journey into, my struggle, because I hope that it encourages you to know that, we have the authority. Again, I say again because we were talking about it last week, but what Jesus did on the cross gave us that authority and that freedom, y'all. So, hey, I think we all should just, do our best to walk in it. Nobody's going to be perfect. Perfection, that's another thing I'm finding. And, but I'm finding that, perfection is a fairy tale, so we can't sit here and act like, and I can't sit here and act like I'm perfect. That's why I'm sitting here sharing this stuff with you all. However, I see what you did there, Lord. Okay, fine. I was meditating and praying with the Soul Space app, like I told you guys on the first episode. I was meditating and praying with it, and it was saying, I can't say everything, so I can't remember everything, but I know that one part of it was like a prayer, and it said to ask God to make you more like Him. That's the thing, like praying that prayer every day. Praying that, no matter what. It also had in there too. It's like make me more like you, no matter what. Y'all, that no matter what can be, man, that's so deep by itself. Like, I don't even give to, I guess, so many examples, but just all I'm saying to you all, like, is that we have that authority now, so we should just walk in it, right? But anyway, let's get into it, y'all. Bible verse of the day. The Bible verse of the day is John 13:35. And it says, by this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. Well, friends, hope that you enjoyed this daily dose of inspiration, the juice. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. And till next time. Bye-bye.